We've been looking at a couple of the other seats too, in Ohariu, which was, Guyon, you were talking about there whether New Zealand First had a chance in any of the seats, Northland. And, actually, David Seymour is arriving at this very second. So for those of you who are watching, he is cruising up. And what is that? It's quite a flash little boat down at the West Haven Marina, I'm taking it. Having a few hugs on the boat is
pretty confident, isn't he?
Yeah, as the act leader. He's taking off his life jacket. Probably thinks he doesn't need it now with the number of votes that have come in.
He's looking very pleased. He's run a very polished campaign, you've got to say that, and was very effective in his communication. Very effective at getting oxygen, and it's paying off big time, really. Looking like 10 seats. I mean, when you think back to the last election, he was pretty angry, in fact, with the performance last time. And frustrated, but it's looking good now.
He's got some fans there, a few people besides the media taking pictures as if he got out of this, what would it be, a rigid inflatable with about 4 or 5 people cruising in.
Well, you've got to hand it to him with the stunts, jumping out of planes, turning up in boats.
He's arrived in style there for sure.
Yeah, so we'll keep a tabs on that because we will go to him. No doubt he's obviously probably going to be the first of the party leaders, one would think now, to talk. He might give us a couple of words there. But let's go to Jo Moir in the far north. In fact, Russell, I do believe. Jo, are you there? I'm imagining it might be a different scene there tonight so far, not quite so buoyant as the ACT party.
Yeah, hi Corin. It is an interesting night here tonight. They were expecting about 200 here, and I think we'd be lucky to be at about 100 at the moment. We haven't had Winston Peters arrive yet. The plan here is for the MC to take over at about 8:30, and then we're expecting Winston Peters to speak at about 8:40 tonight. So it's highly possible he'll be turning up sort of in the next 20 minutes or so. Shane Jones is already here. He's hanging around. He's looking okay, but obviously those numbers aren't looking good for him at the moment, and the north is home for him, so he is looking a bit disappointed.
Yeah, I'm just looking at those now. 8.3% of the vote counted in Northland. He is trailing in third position behind Nationals Matt King, the incumbent, and Willow Jean Prime from Labour, who's probably going to struggle as well. So that looks like that may be a hold to Matt King. Early days still, I suppose. But that's disappointing for New Zealand First. So I'm wondering what sort of a speech we might hear from Winston Peters then. It's not done and dusted yet, is it? But I guess there'll be a lot of speculation as to whether or not he's going to sort of sign out.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Who knows what sort of a mood, Winston Peters turns up with different moods quite regularly, and it will be very interesting to see which one it is tonight. To be honest, I made the comment with you actually on Morning Report yesterday morning, Corin, that he actually has been reasonably mellow in the last week. Kind of felt a little bit like he's sort of come to terms with things and is a little bit at peace. When I spoke to him earlier in the week when we were in Tauranga, his old stomping ground, he said that he was very relaxed about election night and was just going to take things as they come. So I imagine he will probably, if things do go south for him, he will try and give a pretty, stately, dignified type speech. He's got his supporters here, he's got family here, his brothers here, and friends, and I imagine he'll just be wanting to get things done and dusted if things go that way. Obviously still early days, so We'll see where things get to.
Jo, thank you very much for that. We're going to go back to ACT Party headquarters in Auckland, where David Seymour is speaking right now.
The hard questions, but not only opposing, also proposing ideas for a better tomorrow. I want to thank, in addition to my Epsom neighbours and those New Zealanders who party voted ACT from Cape Reinga to the Bluff, I want to also thank our 55 candidates up and down New Zealand. I want to thank all of those people who make our democracy real. How good was Andy Parkin driving the bus 16,000 kilometres to hear New Zealanders? I want to thank all those people that came to our public meetings and participated in our democracy so that we could think about a better future and put those ideas into action in our parliament. I want to thank those thousands of New Zealanders who gave up their hard-earned money before the IRD got it and gave donations to make our campaign a success. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank one volunteer in particular. There are so many, and that is John Windsor. John Windsor is the quintessential volunteer, putting up our hoardings, organising our mail delivery. That is what democracy is about. Make no mistake that the policy settings New Zealand has today are not sustainable. We can't lock ourselves down and keep borrowing to paper over the cracks. We must confront our new reality that this virus is going nowhere and get smarter in how we adapt. We must have an honest conversation about the debt and build a country where the next generation have a real chance of owning their own piece of dirt, where education truly works for all, and where our productivity growth is not in the tank, so we can afford the kind of pharmaceuticals they have in Australia. These are the kinds of things.
And that is David Seymour speaking there at the ACT Party headquarters. He arrived there in rather flash boat, would we say? In a jet boat, pulled up to the wharf down there and giving a rather confident speech there on the current numbers in. About 16.5% of the vote returned, and ACT is sitting on around 7.7%, which would give them 10 MPs. And if you were listening to that, he had standing around him there Simon Court, Karen Shaw, and Brooke Van Velden. Get used to the names and the faces, because on those current polling results, they will be in Parliament with David Seymour. But let's go now to Jordan Bond, who is outside the Labour Party leader Jacinda Ardern's home in Auckland. What's going on there, Jordan?
Oh, kia ora, Lisa. Well, there's actually been quite a flurry of activity in the last half an hour. Clark Gayford has brought us out some snapper bites that he himself caught yesterday. He also brought out some venison balls. There have been a number of people coming and going from Jacinda Ardern's house, including her close staff and what appear to be close friends. But we have not seen any sign yet of the Labour leader herself. It's been a fairly quiet day here, though, with all the campaigning up until today just having to stop dead last night. It's been a relatively quiet day at the Ardern house. They've taken the opportunity to do a few chores. Jacinda Ardern made some cheese scones and gave it to some volunteers. As you were saying, Clark whipped up some fish for the media and the awaiting public here, as you can probably hear behind me. It's quite a family atmosphere here.
Yeah, Jordan, it
there's
does
probably
seem
20 or 30 people here.
It has a bit of a festive atmosphere. For people who are listening, I can see in behind you, Jordan, there's some younger people. I can hear the bark of a dog. Are you able to just sort of spin around? Is there much? Are people just sort of wandering up and down the street? Give us a bit of a feel for who's out there besides you, and I imagine a massive throng of media too.
I can try spin around a little bit.
Okay,
there's probably 20 or 30 people out here having a little look. Some young fans. There we are. We've had some young people with Jacinda Ardern signs. People very excited to be on the tally.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, but there has been other activity as well.
Thanks, Jordan. We'll leave it there for now. Jordan Bond joining us from outside the Labour leader Jacinda Ardern's house. Bit of a street party atmosphere there, with some of the neighbours coming down and comings and goings.
What time do you think we're looking at? I mean,
for her to leave the house?
Yeah, we start to come.
Well, some people are calling it pretty early with David
Seymour's pretty confident.
Hey, we've got to get over to Guyon in the Situation Room.